Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
It's the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
Joining us now is the former counsel to the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee, Mike Davis. He is also the head of the Article 3 project. He's joined us before, extraordinarily knowledgeable about Washington and its ways, a fierce defender of President Donald Trump. And I appreciate very much, Mike, you're joining us here today. Welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Thank you for having me, Roger.
There's really so much to talk about. It's almost hard to know where to start, but let's start at the most obvious place. In this past week, or 10 days, I guess, we have learned that 3 of the defendants in Fulton County, Georgia, those being lawyer Kenneth Chesborough, who I do not know, I've never communicated with, also Sidney Powell, who I've actually never met, but I'm certainly familiar with, and now Jenna Ellis, have pled to crimes, presumably because they will be utilized to testify against President Donald Trump in those legal proceedings. Mike, what do you make of this?
I actually think these pleas show the weakness of Fani Willis's entire theory of the case, her racketeering or RICO theory, that you're somehow going to bring racketeering charges that you used to take down the mob, to take down your political enemies. And I think Fani Willis put so much pressure on these attorneys to plead guilty to a crime, and it seems like she's having them plead guilty to pretty insignificant crimes, and she's going to recommend no jail time. So to me, again, that shows the weakness in her case. And even if these attorneys testify for the prosecution in this case, I don't understand what they're going to testify to that's going to be problematic, because, as I've said all along, it is not a crime to object to presidential elections. It's specifically allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887, and if it were a crime to object to presidential elections, you would have Democrats like Al Gore and John Kerry and Hillary Clinton in prison for objecting to Republican presidential wins in 1968, 2000, 2004, and 2016. And if it were a crime to twist arms politically, which is allowed by the First Amendment, every politician in America would be in jail. And if it were a crime to be a jerk in politics, just about every politician in America, except for Chuck Grassley, the nicest guy in Washington, would be in jail. So these plea agreements don't show that Fani Willis is zeroing in on Trump. I think it shows that she's trying to cut bait.
Just for the clarification of our listeners, Fani Willis is the Fulton County prosecutor and elected Democrat who, to be clear, has received very substantial funding for her election from Trump critic George Soros. But I want to clarify that for our listeners. In the 45 years that I have been in the American political arena, I've never quite seen anything like this. Late last week, there was a flurry of stories, all of them seeming to emanate off of an ABC News story that said that Mark Meadows, the president's former chief of staff, had received immunity to testify, presumably, against President Donald Trump in D.C. in front of a D.C. grand jury. Now, I had reporters from the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Associated Press, among others, tell me that they don't think that report is entirely accurate, and then really clouding the situation, and this perhaps is the downside of social media. Somebody posted a claim that Mark Meadows, former member of Congress, who, by the way, I have no memory of ever speaking to. I may have met him years ago in the green room at Fox when he was a congressman prior to the Trump presidency, but who I most definitely never spoke to on January 5th or 6th, contrary to congressional testimony by one of his aides, but that he was allegedly wearing a wire and working for the FBI as an informant the entire time that he was serving as President Donald Trump's chief of staff. I'm happy to say that his attorney put out a vehement denial of that.
Yeah, and the person who reported it put out a retraction and an apology online. So I would say this: there's a lot of people who are trying to settle scores right now, and I think that we should let the facts come out during this trial and not let these smears and leaks and lies try to control the narrative before the trial. From what I can tell, it seems like Mark Meadows is a good man who was loyal to Trump and remains loyal to Trump, and that's the evidence that I have, and that's what I've seen. So we'll see if that changes, but that's the evidence we have right now.
Well, grand jury testimony is supposed to be secret. That's not to say it never leaks, but it rarely leaks from the person testifying. We do have a book by Mr. Meadows in which he does assert that he believes that there were irregularities and anomalies in the 2020 election. I really think this underlines one of the dangers of social media. Now, I'm a free speech absolutist. I hated it when I was unilaterally banned in 2017 from Twitter, now known as X, from Facebook, where I'm still banned for life. By the way, folks, there is a Roger Stone on Facebook. He uses my image. He uses my bio from X, formerly known as Twitter. Whoever this person or persons are, they often post things, cross-posting from my posts at X, where I'm pretty judicious about what I say, frankly. But that person is not me. And if you follow that person or persons or entity, you are not following me. Strangely enough, I've complained, had my attorney complain. Other friends of mine who are still admitted on Facebook have complained, but the profile persists. Don't follow that individual or individuals because, folks, they are not me. And, of course, I fear that someone will seek to put words in my mouth, creating the kind of misimpression that we have just seen. Sorry to take that moment of personal privilege, but, I guess I had to do so. Mike, what is your view of the gag order, which seems in the most recent filing that the government is seeking to tighten against President Donald Trump in D.C.? Now, I myself was submitted to such a gag order during my own trial. The judge's argument was that my ability to defend myself on social media, which my social media following at that point was pretty meager. I'd been already banned on Twitter. I didn't have many followers anywhere else, but that it would taint the jury pool. And therefore, that was the purpose for the gag order. The problem with that, of course, is that the gag order was left in place after I was convicted and prior to my being sentenced, and right up until the moment that I was sentenced, which kind of disproves that that was the purpose of the gag order to begin with. Mike, is this gag order of Donald Trump unconstitutional?
It is absolutely unconstitutional. It is egregious. What happened to you was un-American. What is happening to President Trump is un-American. A criminal defendant, more than anyone in America, needs the constitutional right to speak out against the judge, against the court staff, against the prosecutor, against the process. And to gag a criminal defendant during that process is a clear violation of the First Amendment. It's a clear violation of the Sixth Amendment right to a fair trial. It's disgusting what they're doing. It's disgusting that this Biden special counsel, Jack Smith, is teaming up with this obnoxiously partisan D.C. Obama judge, Tanya Chutkan, and trying to gag President Trump. Now, Trump filed a very strong legal brief after the gag order, and Tanya Chutkan, she put her gag order on hold temporarily because I think she realized how badly she screwed up. And President Trump should take this to the Supreme Court if necessary, because you have these highly partisan, oftentimes Obama-appointed, obnoxious district court judges in D.C. who do not care about the rule of law. They only care about getting their political enemies and the political results, the Marxist. You have the D.C. you have the Obama-stacked D.C. Circuit, which is the Court of Appeals for the D.C. District Court. So the Supreme Court, which has discretionary review, these Republican-appointed justices on the Supreme Court are going to have to put on their big boy pants at some point, and they're going to have to intervene on these highly partisan cases. This is election interference. These are republic-ending tactics. These Supreme Court justices have lifetime tenure. They have pay protection, and they have to do their damn jobs. And that includes batting down these highly partisan judges who do these blatantly unconstitutional things. The First Amendment protects Americans, not the government. The Sixth Amendment protects criminal defendants' right to a fair trial, not the government's right to a fair trial. The local D.C. criminal rules to which Jack Smith and Tanya Chutkan cite, 57.7, I believe is what it is. The whole point of the gag order is to protect the accused, the criminal defendant, to make sure he gets a fair trial. It's not to protect the government and Jack Smith and his staff, or the court and their staff.
PMS, pregnancy, menopause. Being a woman is a lot. Ollie supports you and yours with expert solutions for every age and life stage. They just launched 2 new products exclusively at Walmart. Period Hero combats bloat, mood swings, and more during PMS. And Balance Perimeno to support hormonal balance, mood, and metabolism during perimenopause. Grab yours at ollie.com. Ollie! These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, streaming now only on Netflix.
Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at stitchfix.com.
I'm not an attorney, that's for sure, but does the president not have to first, I guess, the judge has to make a ruling. So she stayed her gag order based on a motion by Trump's lawyers, which I read, and since then the government has come forward, I think it was last Friday, perhaps it was last Thursday, with an assertion that Trump had threatened Mark Meadows, his former chief of staff, based on the entire contretemps that we discussed a few minutes ago. But from a procedural point of view, does the judge have to not first rule on the gag order, Trump appeal that to the circuit court before the Supremes could reach down and consider that question, or do I have that wrong?
No, that's exactly right. And for Jack Smith to say that Trump is threatening witnesses, it's absurd. It's so absurd that the ACLU, a group that hates President Trump, actually felt compelled to intervene and file a motion saying how absurd this is. There is a reason Jack Smith got banished to The Hague. He got unanimously reversed 8-0 by the Supreme Court. It would have been 9-0, but Justice Scalia passed away after Jack Smith brought a highly partisan, illegal criminal prosecution against former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, a likely presidential or vice presidential candidate in 2016. It is very hard for the prosecutor to get reversed by the Supreme Court. It is nearly impossible for that to happen unanimously. And Jack Smith found the way. He should be out of the practice of law. He is a partisan hack. He is a disgrace to the legal profession, and it's truly embarrassing that this D.C. Obama judge Tanya Chutkan is so partisan and or so ignorant that she's going along with Jack Smith's partisan games.
It would seem to me, since the constitutionally says that political free speech is particularly protected, that Trump's status as a presidential candidate, where he's duly filed with the Federal Election Commission, and obviously an active candidate for president, that would be a factor in the decision regarding this gag order. But in previous transcripts that I've read of the proceedings in the D.C. courtroom, the judge has generally rejected that argument, saying, she doesn't even call him President Trump, by the way. She always refers to him as Mr. Trump. I find that interesting. She has essentially rejected that argument from the get-go.
Yeah, because she's a partisan clown, and she proves every day that she's in that courtroom with President Trump that she's a partisan clown. Of course, the First Amendment provides much greater protections for presidential candidates because it's dealing with political speech. As you said, and our entire justice system involves separation of powers. Do we really want to go down the path? This is the first time ever that a former president or a leading presidential candidate, any major presidential candidate, has been indicted by his political enemy's Justice Department. We are in unprecedented territory, and the reason it's unprecedented is because you're not supposed to do this unless it's in the most extreme cases. And they have the President Biden, Merrick Garland, Jack Smith, and all these goons in the Biden Justice Department have politicized and weaponized our justice system to go after their political enemies, whether it's Trump, Trump's top aides, Trump's advisors like you, Trump supporters, Christians praying outside of abortion clinics, parents outraged by gender chaos and the resulting bathroom rapes in high schools, This is not our parents' or grandparents' Democrat Party. These are not liberals who love America. These are Obama leftists. These are Marxists, and they are destructive to our country. And that is why it is so critically important that President Trump is back in the White House after November 5th, 2024, because our country is on the line. These are Republican tactics by the Democrats. And do you want President Biden replacing Clarence Thomas with Tanya Chutkan on the Supreme Court, or do you want Donald Trump replacing Clarence Thomas with someone like Amul Thapar on the Supreme Court? That's what this next election is all about. It's our God-given rights to speak, to associate, to worship, to protect ourselves. Our country is on the line on November 5th, 2024.
Folks, if you're just tuning in, I'm Roger Stone. This is The Roger Stone Show here on 77 WABC Radio. And we're talking to Mike Davis, former senior counsel to the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee, about various issues over the past week pertaining to the tsunami of lawfare against President Donald Trump. Mike, what do you make of these stories last Thursday, I guess it was, that the FBI and the U.S. Attorney in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, had reports from 40 different, I believe, human sources of corruption on behalf of, I believe it was, a vice president then, Joe Biden. And based on everything that I have seen, the Pittsburgh prosecutor forwarded this information to prosecutors in D.C., in Delaware, and in California, all of whom had some jurisdiction, whereupon virtually all of it died. Now, this was brought to the fore by Senator Chuck Grassley, who at this juncture, with the retirement of the great Orrin Hatch, who I think was the other great U.S. Senator of the last several decades, I think is one of the greatest men in the U.S. Senate, perhaps one of the greatest men in U.S. Senate history in terms of his integrity and his courage. What did you make of this report?
Yeah, and I agree with you. I work for Senator Chuck Grassley, and I agree with you on all those things. And I would say, remember that Bill Barr got this evidence in the last 6 months of the Trump administration, right? And actually the last year of the Trump administration. He sent this evidence that President Biden and his family were corrupt by tens of millions of dollars in foreign bribes and corruption, including the Burisma allegation. Bill Barr sent it to the Pittsburgh U.S. attorney, who deemed these allegations credible. And so then Bill Barr, for some reason, sent it to the Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss, the Delaware U.S. Attorney who was handpicked by both Democrat home state senators. And David Weiss buried that evidence for many years, and it sounds like other U.S. attorneys' offices, including L.A. and D.C., have buried this evidence for many years. This is corruption to its core in the Justice Department, right? And these are not only is it the Biden Justice Department officials. You had Bill Barr, who didn't seem to care too much. If you have credible evidence that a likely president of the United States, or at least a leading presidential contender, is corrupted by foreign bribes and corruption, you would think, as the Attorney General of the United States, you would follow up on that. You would probably want to alert congressional leadership on a bipartisan basis. So we're not in a nightmare scenario where a sitting president of the United States is corrupt and compromised by illegal bribes as the vice president of the United States. And that's exactly the situation that we're in right now. The president of the United States is corrupt. He's compromised, and this has a disastrous effect on America. Do you think that Russia would have invaded Ukraine if Russia didn't know that Biden was corrupt and compromised by these foreign bribes and other corruption. It's also going to embolden China to go in after Taiwan if China knows that the president is weak and corrupt and compromised. And so the Biden, the Justice Department as a whole, from the political leadership to these so-called career assistant U.S. attorneys, they're corrupt. This is a politicized and weaponized department of our federal government. And when President Trump is back in office after January 20th, 2025, he needs to clean house at the Justice Department. He needs to clean house at these intel agencies, because our country is not going to last very long if we continue down this path of a politicized and weaponized justice system, law enforcement agencies, and intel agencies.
In golf, precision is everything, on and off the course. PGA of America chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business for smooth operations and seamless transactions. Together, we enhance ticketing and concessions for better fan experiences from gate to green. This is pro-level efficiency. This is PGA of America with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
5 immersive worlds, 1 amazing theme park. Get ready to explore the all-new Universal Epic Universe, featuring the wizarding world of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, Super Nintendo World, How to Train Your Dragon, Isle of Berk, and Dark Universe. Epic Universe opens May 22nd at Universal Orlando Resort. Our universe will never be the same. Tickets and packages on sale now at universalorlando.com.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel or that white chocolate mocha. Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
This is one of my greater concerns, is that we already have, obviously, a hot war in Ukraine, to which we have put in excess of $200 billion. President Zelensky is asking for more. We now have our allies in Israel, who, in my opinion, need assistance. But I would hope that that assistance does not include boots on the ground or the use of the U.S. Air Force, although late last week there were reports of U.S. fighter jets attacking Hamas targets in Syria. I hope that is not a slippery slope. But my fear is that as the Chinese see us mired in a two-front war, decide to make their move on Taiwan, and because of Taiwan's monopoly on the production of computer chips, that has a seriously deleterious effect on the U.S. stock market, which in turn has an extraordinarily negative impact on the U.S. economy. That is really my greatest single fear. And given that this administration seems compromised, certainly when it comes to China, I don't think that's an outrageous assumption. I don't think that's an untoward fear.
No, I agree with you. And remember, we had 4 years of peace and prosperity under President Trump. Our enemies, our adversaries, there's no way in hell they would do what they're doing under President Biden, because they know that President Trump was a strong, decisive leader, and he would not tolerate this. And then we have this weak, compromised buffoon of a president and Joe Biden, and our enemies are eating America's lunch. And this is very dangerous for the rest of the world. We are distracted in Ukraine. What Putin did in Ukraine is terrible. Putin's a monster. We get that. But this is a Europe problem, right? Why is this an America problem? And are we willing to go to World War III to save 3 Russian-speaking provinces in eastern Ukraine? Ukraine's interest and America's interest are not aligned in Ukraine. Ukraine stands the chance of losing everything in this war against Russia. America does not, and this is why Ukraine is trying to drag America into this war, because Ukraine has everything to lose. We do not. It's terrible what's happening, and Europe should step up and start taking care of Ukraine, because this is a Europe problem. Russia threatens Europe. We need to be focusing on our allies. We need to be focusing on our national security interests, and that includes Israel and Taiwan. And we need to stop being distracted, like you said, Roger, by this silly war in Ukraine that America should not be involved with.
So, with the newest election of Speaker Mike Johnson of Louisiana, Mike Davis, do you think that there will be a new aggressiveness, perhaps even including subpoenas, in the House investigation, the House Oversight investigation, the House Judiciary Committee investigation, into the corruption of the Bidens, particularly in light of these new revelations by Senator Grassley?
Yes, absolutely. Speaker Mike Johnson is the best that we could hope for. He is outstanding. He is a brilliant lawyer, constitutional scholar, committed conservative, just an all-around good man, good person. So it is very good that he is the Speaker of the House, and I'm very happy we had 3 weeks of chaos to get to this point, and we should cheer Congressman Matt Gaetz for forcing this, because we finally have a Speaker of the House who represents real Americans and real America. He's a conservative. He's a religious person. He's a great person for the job. He's the perfect man at the right time to be in there, because our country is heading off of a cliff, and Speaker Mike Johnson can help right that ship. And part of that is oversight over this corrupt president and his corrupt administration. That we have, like we discussed, we have a clearly compromised president of the United States. He's taken tens of millions of dollars from China, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, or wherever the hell else he's taken money. It seems like every Biden family member is on the take, except for the 5-year-old granddaughter, who they finally acknowledged after 5 years of political pressure. This is a corrupt family. They're rotten. They're a terrible family. This Joe Biden, everyone thinks that Joe Biden is this good man, and he's not. He's a terrible human being. He's rotten to the core. And Mike Johnson, as the Speaker of the House, I think he's going to breathe new life into the House Judiciary investigations and unshackle James Comer, who's doing a fantastic job, and let them actually do their jobs and issue subpoenas and enforce those subpoenas on the House floor, and enforce those subpoenas in federal court, and get to the bottom of all this.
All right, I'm afraid we are out of time. A very special thanks to Mike Davis, former senior counsel to the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee, head of the Article 3 project. Mike, thank you for joining us here on the Roger Stone Show.